Hello, welcome to this University of Brighton podcast. I'm Richard Newman. This is the latest podcast to look ahead to the new academic year, this week focusing on Brighton Students Union, freshers and the support the SU will be providing this year. I'm delighted to welcome back to the podcast Meg Donovan, Vice President Activities, and BSU CEO Laura Greenwood-Pearsons, and for the first time, Events Manager Amellia Brown. Thanks all for coming on. Laura, I think if we start with the situation as it is now, we're talking in a week where things are changing, but it's a very different time to come to university. All of us are adapting all the time to different guidelines. How has the SU worked with the university to put support in place for students?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really strange time to be in, and we know that, and the whole world is in a strange time. So we've just got to make the best adaptations we can to make sure that the students that are coming to university for the first time or returning back to university get the best experience we can give them within the government guidelines. And we've been working really closely with the university since, well, really this all properly kicked off back in March, which is crazy to think that this was 6 months ago now. Really closely, daily communications with the senior management team, various different committees to make sure that we're giving as much feedback on the student experience as we possibly can and sharing information back to the students as regularly as possible, just to do the best we can considering the circumstances. And obviously that includes what we're going to be doing for the freshers welcome period, which we'll obviously describe later.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about communicating, isn't it? All the changes to students, because things do change a lot. And I guess we all have a responsibility of making sure that people know, all the students know what's happening what the new guidelines are.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult for every person to try and keep up on exactly what's going on. And even the rule of 6 sounds quite straightforward, but actually when you're trying to look under the bonnet, there are various exceptions and it's just confusing. So I think that's why we took, which in hindsight now looks like a clever decision, we took a decision very early on that we were going to do a virtual freshers experience. And that's proving to be probably the most sensible way forward we could have done it, to make sure that we can still deliver an experience and an opportunity for that sense of belonging, that community, that friendship building to the best of our ability.
We're going to go through some more specifics on support shortly. For new students though, Laura, Meg, up to you who'd like to answer this one, but shall we just set out what the SU does? Because how it works with the university, separate but within it. So what should students expect and what can they get from their SU?
So I'll explain the boring bits and I'll let Meg do the exciting flurry bits on top. So essentially a students' union is a completely independent organisation from the university. We're an independently registered charity and company, but clearly we are intrinsically linked to the university. So the majority of our funding comes from the university to run the activities that we do. And that's supplemented by the bars and the shops income that we get. And every student union in the country is completely different. From our point of view, we run a variety of different services based upon the feedback that we receive on a very regular basis from the students. So we have support services, which primarily look at academic support. So if students get themselves in any difficulties or challenges, whether they need extensions, advice on appeals, complaints, etc., our team are there as an independent facilitator for that process. We also have our engagement team, who support the 1,000 course reps across the university in having very, very regular feedback sessions to make sure that every single piece of information, positive and where some things need adapting and changing, gets fed quickly back into the university structure. And then we have the cafes and the shops across our campuses as well. Meg, perhaps I'll let you talk about societies and the officer team.
There's 4 of us who are the officer team. So there's me, Vice President Activities, and then Evangeline, Welfare, Rami, Education, and CM President. And our roles are based on providing help for those students in those areas. So obviously I help the societies and the sports teams and the student media, and also Raise and Give, so the charity work. And then obviously Rami helps with the education side of it, so the course reps, working with the university on certain things. Evangeline obviously helps with welfare, so she works with the support team and finding the best ways to help the students. And CM covers that and works with international students, commuting students, the students from the medical school. And yeah, that's a good summary of that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amellia, you've only been at the university, the SU, for a couple of months. What a time to join. So let's talk about Freshers 2020. It's moving solely online. A tough decision, I'm sure, but a decision which needed to be made.
Ultimately, we had plans across the board. We didn't just look at virtual options, and we did put some thorough planning into doing physical options just in case that was possible. But unfortunately, now it's much safer to do everything virtual. However, the virtual events that we do have are really good. We've done some really thorough sort of planning into those events and researching into the best possible options for those events, and we're adding to them daily as well, which is amazing. And yeah, so it's actually looking quite positive for us this year. Yeah,
and pulled together, a pretty impressive lineup, really, at what has been quite short notice when you've been waiting to see whether you could do a mix of online and in person. But I mean, so how's that come together then?
So we have found a virtual platform that we feel safe with using, and they have a really good lineup of events that we've chosen that they've put a lot of work into. So now all of the students can have a free wristband. All of the events are free, and there's prizes up for grabs. There's ways to communicate and connect with students. And although we understand how important it is to be able to meet physically, this is the best option that we can offer for the students moving forward. And within these events, there's all types of different events that we've got, from bingo to meet and greets, so to actually meeting friends and having organised sort of fun activities to be involved with, to DJ nights as well. So there's stuff across the board, everybody to get involved with. It's super fun and super easy to join. All of the instructions are there, so we feel confident now that the students are going to enjoy what we've got for them.
Yeah, let's talk through some of those highlights then that you're putting on. What are you most looking forward to, all of you? I mean, it's a good lineup that's been put together.
Yeah, I personally love the idea of the bingo, because not only do they get to meet each other, hang out, they also get to win prizes. And I mean, with a free ticket and winning prizes, it's a good time, isn't it?
I think the virtual breakout rooms will be fantastic, because I think breakout rooms have really sort of become very popular with people over the last couple of years, and the concept of trying to do those virtually are really interesting, and it's sort of creating a natural grouping of students to work together on something which starts conversations, and from that you'll find people that you sort of naturally might bond with a bit more. So I think that's really exciting.
The RuPaul's Drag Race quiz, I think, will be extremely popular with the students. I think that will go down really well.
I thought that one was going to come up, I have to say, from one of you. So you didn't disappoint. Laura, you've been involved with SUs for a while. You can't have imagined having to put together, oversee a freshers event like this one.
No, it's like no other freshers, obviously, that we've done before, and I speak regularly to my counterparts at other unions across the country, and we all share as much information and learning as we can from this experience, and to make sure we're all doing the best we can for our individual students at the universities. So no, we could never have predicted it. But I also think it's important that we focus on actually some of the opportunities here too. So by doing this virtual freshers, there are going to be some of our students that are able to participate in those activities that wouldn't normally choose to participate in the in-person ones. So I'm talking about maybe some of our students with caring responsibilities who can't get to site on the evenings, maybe our commuting students, our students who, study remotely part-time around the world. So actually this is an opportunity to engage even more students in this experience than we would normally be able to facilitate.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's that's the great thing about it, and it's all free. So here we go. So what's the pitch then to students? Why should they get involved this year? What are they going to benefit from it?
I think when we looked at this and we thought, okay, what do we have to do to make it a legitimate welcome activity? What's the purpose of what we do every single year? So not just how we do it, why do we do it? And we all came to exactly the same conclusion, that it's about creating the students the opportunities to make friends, to feel that sense of community, that sense of belonging, that sense for the new students that they've made the right choice by choosing the University of Brighton, which we know they have, and we just want to help them come to exactly the same conclusion and reaffirm that in their minds. So everything that we've been doing and planning is about creating those opportunities for those students, whether they're 18-year-old and sat in their halls of residence, or 60-year-old with living in their own home who've just decided to change career and suddenly study becoming a midwife. Whatever their personal circumstances, we want to create a group to help them meet like-minded people.
I guess it is kind of a bit more of an inclusive. It feels like it might be a bit more of an inclusive freshers, because I guess for some people, yeah, it can be quite intimidating. For a lot of people, it's quite intimidating. A lot of people are coming to university or leaving home as well for the first time, and just getting out there. But in a virtual space, it sort of breaks down a lot of barriers, doesn't it?
It does, and I think the media is really hammering students at the moment and being completely unkind and suggesting it's all students that are causing some of this sort of second wave which appears to be happening at the moment, and that's grossly unfair. It's assuming for a start that all of our students are young, and they're not. It's assuming that all of our students live in halls of residence and travel and move away to university, and they don't. We've got a proud tradition at this university of welcoming local community students into the population, and we should be really proud of that and continue doing that. So yeah, I think this is actually an opportunity, and when it goes back to normal, whatever that might look like in the future, I think there's still going to be a real place for a lot of this virtual stuff that we've been doing when we weren't able to do anything else.
And talking to a lot of the students, it sounds like a lot of the people are quite annoyed by that narrative, about the young people, that they're not kids. These people everyone's an adult. They're responsible people in the main. There will always be a minority of people, but let's be honest, come on. That means we all know we've all had to adapt to these new rules. Can we talk about some of the pop-up events that's going on as well? So what's the plan for those, Amellia?
So we will be having a gazebo pop-up on each campus. It will be staggered through the week. And within that gazebo, we're going to be offering all sorts of different freebies. We'll only be popping up over the space of a couple of hours, but we'll be offering some freebies and some bits to get involved with. And it's just a chance for the students to meet us as a union, and also just know that we're there, but also have that physical connection where possible. But it's the way we've organised it is super safe. It'll be on a nice revolving system, so they can come in, grab their bits, and sort of take those bits and bobs home, which is a really nice thing that we're able to offer. We've got plans for every campus, so across next week we'll be popping up on every campus, so everybody can have the chance to get involved, and it'll be across the lunchtime period, which means that the timing's there as well, so the students won't all be in lessons. So yeah, definitely come on down to come and see us, because it will be worth it.
I just get one more negative out the way, Laura, and then we don't have to sort of tackle any of that sort of stuff again. But there's a lot of scams around at this time of year. So what would be your advice to students to avoid such scams?
Yeah, there are every year, as you indicated there, Richard. This happens every year, that you get local sort of nightclub promoters, or indeed sometimes the nightclubs and pubs themselves, start selling what they call official wristbands to student nights, both in Brighton and for Sussex University as well. And normally we would discourage students from those, because we offer our own events where we've safely managed them and made sure we've got the right capacities, etc. But this year, more than ever, and looking at the changes that are coming from the government just this week, it's absolutely vital that students are really clear about anything they're choosing to purchase. We can't tell them what events they should and shouldn't go to, obviously, but please, please read the terms and conditions, read the small print. Some of the things that we've seen recently are saying things like it's a flexible ticket. And as long as they can put on an event over a 12-month period, you won't get a refund. Some are just talking about no refunds at all. And they're a lot of money, some of these tickets. So we're just encouraging people, clearly make your own choices, but please read the small print and do get in touch with us if you want any guidance or any support.
Great advice. Look, this is still a really exciting time to come to university, and meeting other new people, joining societies. I mean, that's all part of it, especially in the first few weeks. So let's talk about the virtual Freshers' Fair as well. What can we expect from that?
So for the fair, me again, I'm afraid, Richard, for the fair, we've got, again, sadly, we can't get 5,000 people through the Amex. And we're not even able to do the events at Eastbourne that we would normally do either. So it's a virtual Freshers' Fair. And what that basically means is for a period of about 10 days, there will be a website, all linked through the BSU website, where you could go on and you can have a look at some of the companies that would normally be at Freshers' Fair. And they've got various offers on there. Most importantly, from our point of view, we've also got an opportunity to see what sports teams and what societies are available, and also what support services the SU are offering. Again, I think this is almost an opportunity. So instead of just having to make sure that you're there and going through the Freshers' Fair experience, which is a fantastic experience, but here it's going to be open for 10 days. And 2 of those days, on the 1st and the 2nd of October, they will be live Freshers' Fair days. And what that means is we will have members from our sports teams, from our societies, and from the SU that will be there. Very similar to anybody that's experienced University Open Days and Applicant Days, that students will be able to drop in, ask any questions, either by typing it or in person, face-to-face, or in person, face-to-face across the screen. And we'll be there to answer any questions at all, to give them the opportunity to see what great societies we have and sports teams at the university.
Do you mind if I add to that, Laura?
Do.
No, I was just going to say it's another opportunity for an inclusive experience, because a lot of the time in the Freshers' Fairs, some societies and sports teams are louder than others, which is fair enough. But a lot of the time, some societies and sports teams don't get noticed as much because they're a bit quieter, like in the corner, aren't playing really loud music. So this is an opportunity for someone to swipe through all of the societies and sports teams and have a look at all the content that's there and all the benefits that are there, and then make that decision fairly.
Clearly, it's a little bit complicated at the moment with sports teams and societies, with how many people can mix in person, and sports can take place within certain guidelines, the government guidelines, which again change all the time, but you can join these sports teams and societies. So Meg, for new and returning students, how will they generally run this year, at least at the start?
So for the societies, for the first couple of months, it's all going to be virtual, we've decided, because we feel like that's the safest thing to do. However, we have purchased Zoom licenses for all of the committees, so it doesn't get cut off after 40 minutes. They can have as much time as they want on them. For sports teams, it's a bit different because they're risk assessed and they have like professional coaches coming in, so they are able to meet up. And also from the confusing guidelines from the government, sports, was it official sports, organised sports can still meet up and do those things. So yeah, it is going to be difficult, but as Laura was saying earlier, there are opportunities for other students to get involved in societies. So for example, commuting students who wouldn't normally be able to travel all the way to Falmouth or Eastbourne to take part in these activities, they might now be able to. And as well, if, let's say, students are in their halls of residence and the people they're living with, they get on with, but don't have as much in common with, they now, because of COVID, they might feel a bit more isolated. This might mean they will reach out to those societies and want to join their societies and find the people that they can have that sense of belonging with.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way, as we mentioned just now, to meet new people, but also to form a new kind of immediate support network. And that's the case for first year students, but also for returning students who are coming back who probably can't wait to get back involved with the societies they were involved with before.
I think societies were vital. In the last academic year, we saw some brilliantly innovative examples of how our societies were keeping their members involved and keeping them going. Some brilliant B-dance stuff, some brilliant debates happening. Absolutely fantastic. And our society committees have actually, I don't think, ever been more engaged with us than they have been over the summer. And our activities team and Meg are doing a brilliant job at just keeping everybody going, giving lots of ideas about how we can welcome new students and, as you rightly say, for those returning students, give them the best experience we can at the moment.
Yeah, I think as well, it's like you said, Laura, it's about finding brand new opportunities that they can get involved in. So it's literally down to looking at each society individually and thinking, what could they do online? What could they do? What could they do? Instead of grouping them as a whole. Even though we've got some events that they can get involved in, activities and games that they could do, like giving them general ideas, but which is great, but also looking at them individually, like I said, and trying to find opportunities for them, whether it's grants, ways to volunteer online, getting them involved in our campaigns, our awareness months, and just making sure that they still feel like they belong as part of the SU.
Can we talk about the wellbeing support for students this year? So what's been put in place from the SU?
So we always have wellbeing services available. We have our student support team that, as I talked about before, predominantly look at more of the academic side, but absolutely will support students in any aspects of their lives, or certainly show them where they need to go to get any specialist support that's required. And we'll continue doing that. We'll continue sending out welfare messages. We'll continue doing proactive campaigns on the issues that are important to our students. It just might be delivered virtually this time. And so, for example, our student support team will be working remotely, as I know the university student services will be primarily remotely too. But actually, again, because we're not walking from one room, one building, one campus to another in between appointments, it means that we can actually see more appointments, see more students a day to get them as much help as they need. Our frontline reception points on each campus will be open as usual. I'm saying that confidently now because our staff are ready and they're in now on the office spaces ready to go to support students. So at a time when many university staff and union staff are having to work remotely, so there's higher capacities on campus for the students who are most important, there will be a physical presence from the SU on every single site that students can come to whenever they're on site and ask any question at all about anything. And I can assure you, over those first month or so of term, we get asked some unusual questions, but we've heard them all before. Some of our staff have worked with us for 45 years. So they've probably heard that question before, and we will do our very best to answer it.
And Meg, I mean, the focus really from all of this, from all the planning, is to make sure students get the very best student experience in the safest possible way, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And we think that working with the university is a good way of doing that. So we've been working with the university to make sure that our students feel the safest they possibly can, because obviously it's unfortunate that we can't do all these in-person things and it's not going to be the same. However, the students' safety is our number one priority in all of this, and we have to put that first. And as well, another thing is we're really passionate about that constant feedback with the students and making sure that we listen to them, because we're serving the students at the end of the day. So getting that constant feedback and checking on them and looking at current matters in the world and asking them about it and seeing how they feel about things and bringing it back and acting on it, we think is really important, especially this year.
Last few points, Amellia, just about the Freshers Week planning. I mean, you've only been here for a couple of months. It's been, I'm sure, a bit of a whirlwind. But how impressed have you been with the whole team about how we managed to pull this together to offer students something, really exciting?
honestly, all I can say to the students is if you knew what was happening behind the scenes and how brilliant everyone's been pulling together and researching and helping each other, then you would appreciate exactly what happens in your union. It's been tough, but I mean, things are changing all the time, but we have pulled together and we have got something that we're very proud of, and that is 100% worth getting involved with.
I guess you'd echo that, Laura, for these weird times about how everyone's pulled together.
Completely. I am incredibly proud of every single staff member within the Students' Union, every single one. And of course, that extends to the officer team. They have responded phenomenally from the time that we sent out one of the most challenging emails I've ever had to write to say that we would all be required to move off site, to every single day now as we are constantly planning, and then an announcement comes. And it's almost like we're just laughing now and accepting that. So we change as quickly as we can to deliver the best experience. Our job is to make student life better. And that's what we're trying to do every single day.
Yeah. And finally, we've got a brilliant SU officer team this year. A couple of months into term now. Meg, how are you all getting on with each other? And how excited are you about going forward and all the plans you have in place?
Yeah, it's super exciting. It's been really cool, actually, because obviously I've never done this before, and I don't know what it was like as an officer before all of this, but one of the great things is because we've been online and we've been having catch-ups every day, checking in on each other, I think maybe it's better that we're online, because maybe if we were in person we wouldn't have been able to meet up as much. But obviously on Teams it's there, and you can message someone, you can call them whenever, like you have set meetings every day. So we've built like a friendship that maybe we wouldn't have had if we were in person. And as well, it's just been so interesting learning different things from everyone, because we're all so different. And I've personally learned so much from them. So I think we're all really excited about the year ahead.
Great. Look, thanks all three of you for coming on the podcast. You can claim your free wristband, of course, at brightonsu.com. We're going to put all the links for everything you need to know in the podcast description. Next week, we'll finish our mini series of looking ahead to the new academic year with an interview with Vice Chancellor, Professor Deborah Humphries. She joins us on the podcast then. Until then, thanks for listening.